Welcome to my mechanical engineering course 10005 and 10006. This video will cover the workbook 1 from the using SolidWorks 2017 from Engineering and Computer Graphics Workbook. Yeah, I know. I just said I'm using 2017 when I've got 2018 software. There wasn't much change between 2017 and 2018, so we should still be able to get by. So in this video, I'm going to introduce you to some of the features in SolidWorks to get you up and running. SolidWorks is a very, very powerful tool, and there is a lot more that you can do with SolidWorks than we have time to cover in this quick class. So I will just cover mostly the stuff that you'll need to be successful in this class. So following through the suggested setup, which is good. It's difficult on me because I have it completely different at my work, but it'll make it easier for teaching you guys if you see my computer set up the same as yours and you're not wondering where the heck did that come from. So by all means, if you have questions, please feel free to ask me. So the first thing the textbook suggests to do is to hold open this toolbox. I suppose it's okay. I personally don't use those, but that's okay. That's fine. And then it says to open up some toolbars. We'll get all these toolbars opened up, and then I'll go through and tell you which ones we're using and what they do. So it says to go to the view toolbars, and then there's several of them that it wants you to open up. I have found through reading through this textbook that they do a lot of things the hard way. So I will show you how the book tells you to do it, and then I'll show you how I found it easier to do. So the first one we're going to open up here is the features. And that popped up this little toolbar over here. They're all grayed out because none of them are active right now because we don't have an open part file or an open sketch or an open assembly or anything that would be associated with that toolbar. So again, tools, toolbar, and then the next one that we're supposed to open up is, I skipped one, the dimensions and the relations. So that opened up the dimension toolbar. Here it is, clear over here on this side. Again, it's not a feature that I use, but that's okay. But an easier way to do that rather than click, click, click is if you just come down here into the toolbar area and right mouse click, that opens up all of your available toolbars. So the next one it wanted was a sketch toolbar. Okay. That popped up over here, and that one is very useful. We use that one quite a bit when we're sketching. The next one would be the standard toolbar, which is your file, not files, but it's opening. We'll cover those in a minute. Your standard views, your front view, side view, top view, isometric views, and then also this view. And we'll cover those things here in just a bit too. So now these are all open and they're scattered all over the place. I personally like a little bit of order, and here we got all this empty space, which appears right now, but you can move these around. If you just get that to where you get the four angles, the four arrows on it, grab it with the left mouse button and drag it, you can replace it wherever you want it to be. So let's cover some of the functions of these. Most of these upper buttons up here are your basic computer menus. Your file, which does the new, open, and then these are all the files that I have recently opened in SolidWorks. There is a recent link here where you can view all the recently opened files. And I will show you a shortcut to that in just a bit. and then there's also recent folders that you have accessed. This is very useful when you're trying to find something that you opened and you can't remember where it was. Not that I've ever done that today. Anyway, so that's your file. Open, new, exit. The view, toolbars. I've never used the touch mode. I'm assuming that's for the touch screens. Full screen just makes you very big. And now how do I get out of that? We'll exit the full screen. It shows you this will hide all your toolbars, or will show all your toolbars, and you notice that you can get to that with an F10 also. Task pane puts this up over here, which is very useful. I always have that one open. Motion manager, I've never used the motion manager in all my days of SolidWorks. And then status bar, which is down here at the bottom. That shows you where you're working and some other information over here once you're into a document. So that's and then tools. Here is some SolidWorks applications. SolidWorks Explorer to look for documents. Express products. This one, my service has a DriveWorks Express. Some of them do come with Simulation Express, which is a finite element analysis program for doing stress analysis. You can compare documents and features. You can build just some macros. Add-ins is very useful. If you have add-ins that you need to put in, we won't be importing any, but you can go on the internet and download parts, or parts from a later version of SolidWorks. If they save it in a export file, you can bring it in and recognize the features. It's very handy sometimes, sometimes not so handy. And what else we got in here? Options. Options is always a good one here. We'll be dealing with some of these options a little bit later on, but there is an easier way to get to them. That rather than coming to tools and options, you could just hit this little button up here and you get to the same spot. Again, I'm very lazy. I'd like to go as quickly as possible to my final destination. So the help feature has a welcome into SolidWorks, SolidWorks help. Open up another browser here and we'll help you with anything. You can search for any commands or anything that you're looking for. And here, this is how I learned SolidWorks, was going through all their tutorials. Some of them are really, really good. So student curriculum, student resources, instructor's curriculum, and activating, deactivating. So anyway, most of these we don't use in this class. If you want to spend some time exploring these, you're more than welcome to do so on your time. So this here is opens the welcome dialog. This brings up a list of your recent documents that you've had open. This one I see a lot at my office has because I have a problem with SolidWorks crashing on me, and it comes back up and shows me which files were open when it crashed. You can start with a new part, assembly, a new drawing from here. Again, recent folders, resources, user groups. This customer portal is good if you have subscription. We have one at my office. I'm able to go in there and download parts that other people have already modeled. Makes my assemblies a lot quicker, so I don't have to take the time to model these parts. Okay, this button here is a new button. That means you can come in here, click that, and you can create a new part, a new assembly, and a new drawing. And I think when we get to doing this, I'll have you do the advanced rather than the novice, and we'll explain that in just a bit. But if you come in here and just click on this, this will open up a double click. a new part. Now you see that all of these things have that are now available have turned into color. Um, I'm kind of weird. I like to have these buttons in the center of the screen. Just a little idiosyncrasy of my own. Okay, so now that I guess I went a little fast, but okay. So this is a file for modeling a part, and you'll notice, like I said, all of these, most of these have become active. This is called the feature tree. This anything that you design in this part, and when you add features, whether you add a surface, take a volume, remove a volume, create planes, reference geometry, everything you do in this part will be outlined over here in the feature tree, and you can easily access stuff that you have done, go in to make modifications, changes, and whatnot. So that will be lined up here, and we'll see that once we get to building a part. So some of the buttons that have lit up here, we got we did this one. This is if you have existing parts, you can come in here and open existing parts. This is a save button with save as, save all. Save all is a great command. If you got several files open, you just hit that, it saves all of them, so that when your machine crashes, you don't lose everything. Your print button. This is an undo button. This one here is right now in the select mode. You can do magnifying, lassoing, and then select. If you just want to select certain hole sizes, or a whole bunch of different things, you can come in and play with those. This button is a rebuild button. If you make a change to a dimension or something, and you want to have it reflected in your part, you'll come up here and hit the rebuild button. This is file properties. This is very handy for putting in. One thing I like in my file properties, okay, this may not be coming in because it's a student version, but I like to have the material listed. You can list the description, what the part is, part numbers, drawn by dates, and drawn by persons, and approvals, and finish types. A lot of information could be kept in here. But that can be all done here in the file properties. This here is the system options. You can come in and change external references, whether you allow them or not. Default templates, if you have a template set up that you want to come out every time you start a new part, you would set it up in here. Then every time you hit this button and new part, it would bring up that template. You can change where your files are located. A lot of things can be done in here, and can also cause a lot of problems if you mess them up. On the document properties, so this would be things that are specific to this file. So you can come in and change the kind of angles you want, stuff you want on your annotations. Do you want that in ISO, or do you want it in ANSI? You can change the leader style, frame style, fonts. You can customize this to anything that you really want, and it's displayed over here. And they're very, very, very customizable by the user. That takes that one. So this one up, this over here is, this will take this document, this file part that we're making right here. You hit this button and it'll import it into a new drawing. The drawing format will be based on the default template that is set up in your options. If you hit this button here, it will open up a new assembly, and it doesn't, if it's the only part that you have open right now, it will bring that part into the assembly. Otherwise, you can pick and choose which part you want to put in. This is a save all. That'll save all your documents. That's the same as this one up here that does the same thing, but this one's a lot easier to get to. If you want to change the color of your parts features, you hit this button. This is a nice button. I don't think that will come out. I'm not sure if that comes out in your or not, or if I added that in there. This is a measure button. If you hit that, you pick two features on a part, and it'll tell you the distance between them. Very useful tool. A zoom tool. If you want to zoom to fit, you hit this button. This guy here will take you to the previous view you were at. This will do a section view, and it's only for viewing purposes. It'll cut your part so you can see what's going on the inside without damaging your part. So this here gives you the various different orientations of which to view the part, either your front, your back, your top, the bottom, left, right. If you want it all in one plane, two windows, four windows, depending on how many files you have open, they could be displayed in a 2x2 grid. And all of this here is, well, not all of that, but all this up here is also these things right here. This guy display between solid with lines, solid without edge lines, and then just a black and white, no hidden lines with hidden lines, and then the hidden lines solid. Sometimes this is very useful to have. This one is if you got features you want to see or hide, you can do that through here. Cool. If you want to hide your planes, your points, it's very, and then colors, schemes. Some of these things we don't deal with. We've covered this one. This guy here is basically an extruded boss, and it's these guys over here. And this one is also over there, so I don't use this file here because it's all down here when you open a part. So why they would have us put that in. If you don't want to feature a toolbox, you can drag it out, turn it off, or you can again right mouse in the feature toolbox area and turn them on and off here too. So okay, so I think we've covered pretty much everything here on the buttons. I know I went kind of fast. Hopefully you can rewind if I went too fast and you can look things over. I guess I didn't cover this one down here. A lot of this down here, this is a toolbar that I put in that I use a lot. Mostly I use this button right here, which I brought over here, the measure button. This one here, mass properties. When you have a part in there, it will tell you the volume of the part, the mass based on the density assigned by the material, your mass, center of mass, and a lot of information for doing calculations on this to evaluate your part. A lot of these other things I don't use. Design table is really cool, but I don't think we cover that in our class. You can set up a design table where you can have a part and have it go through the table and select which dimension you want to change and give it like 5 different dimensions, and it'll create 5 different configurations of that part with the variations in that dimension. So it's cool if you're trying to do some research on different sizes of parts and whatnot. This one, these down here are all come out with the part file when you open it. These are zooms for to zoom for an area, zoom to fit. Again, some of these are repeats. This one's a repeat. This one's a repeat. Pretty much all of these are a repeat of this toolbox up here. Okay, so when you're working in SolidWorks, all your sketches, you begin with a sketch to start extruding your bodies, and obviously the first thing you need to do is an extrude something, and then after you have that first basic extrusion, you can start cutting parts away from it or adding more parts to it to do whatever you need to get your final design. So when you begin, you only have three options from which to start from, and that would be your three basic planes: your front plane, your top plane, and your right plane. Once you have parts or solids in your model, any flat surface can be a sketch plane. It doesn't have to be parallel to any of the original planes or anything. It just, any flat surface can be a sketch plane. Okay, so in this textbook they have you use two different templates for modeling your parts and for the drawings. One template will be set up in the inch, pound, second format, and the other one will be in the millimeter, grams, and second format. So what we have to do here, okay, I probably don't need to, but I'm going to go ahead and close that anyway, is they say go to File, New, and then Part, and then OK. So basically we just started a new part. And then we're going to go to the options up here and go to the document properties and come down here to units and make sure that inch, pound, second is selected, and that we have 4 decimal places for our links. We can you don't, it doesn't matter, we don't do dual dimensioning, but we'll go ahead and do those in 4:2, and mass property, we'll set all these to 4. Angle, I'm not going to set angle. There's no way anybody can keep tolerance on 4 places on an angle. You're doing good if you can get them on 1 or 2. Okay, so now that that is all set, we'll close this, and then they tell you, and I'm going to maximize my window here. I am going to, and it tells you to come and do a save as, and then as the type, we're going to save it as a part template. Now you want to make sure that you know where you're saving these to. If this is your own computer at home, you can default it to SolidWorks default location. If you're using a computer on all access, if you can get it into your H drive at school, that would be the best place to put it. So we're going to name this one, they said to call it ANSI inch, and it is a part template, and we'll say OK. Okay, now we will come up here and we will save our part, do a save as, and come down here to part template, and we will name this an ANSI metric, and we're saving it in the same location. Again, if it's your own computer, you can do that. You do have, I guess I should have started this at the beginning. You do get a copy of SolidWorks to put on your computer at home for 1 year by taking this class, and I will give information on how to do that. So we got ANSI metric, we're going to save that. So now that we have the parts done, the book tells us to do drawings. So let's come up here and select the new part, select the drawings, set OK, and we will take the A scale and say OK. If you want to keep the default title block from SolidWorks, that is fine with me. If you want to take the time to redraw your own title block, that's fine too. We use, in my office, we use this. We just changed some of the features in here to reflect what we do. So we want to come in here and change the properties, go to document, go to units and inch, pounds, and change this to 4 decimal places, and 4 decimal places. We'll say OK, and then we're gonna, using the left or not the left but the center wheel, scroll in here, and we're gonna take this guy, and I'm gonna start here at the center, and I want to center justify this, and then I'm gonna stretch it out. You do that to me every time. You would think I would learn, but I'm a slow learner. Okay, and we'll just put our name up here. And if you want to put the class and section, that's fine too. Okay, so now we've got the unit set and we got our name in here. Now we'll come up here and do a save as. Again, make sure that if you're on your own computer, that, I mean, you can put it in the default location, but if you're using all access, make sure you put it to your H drive at the college. We'll come down here and select a drawing template, and then we'll come up here and we'll call this ANSI inch. And now we have our drawing template for the inch. Now we could, to make the metric one, we could just shut this down, open the file up again, put our name back in, and do all that, or we can just take this guy, change the properties, go to the document, go to units, change from millimeter to, from inch to millimeters. We'll reduce this down to 2 times, this one down to 2 times, and say OK. And then we will do a save as, and we're going to change again. Oh, so it's still in the template. We're going to change this to metric and hit save, and it updated to ANSI metric. And so now we have our 2 templates, one for inch and one for metric. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I am going to demonstrate for you how the book would have you model exercise 1.2, the cover plate. Once I've gone through how the book would do it, I'll take a couple of minutes and show you how I would do it. I do things differently than the book. Okay, yeah, so anyway, so we're going to model a part. So we're going to hit our new part button, and we're going to come in here, and okay, well, where's our inch? Okay, see, the inch and metric is gone. Well, if you hit this advanced down here, this will bring up all of the templates that you have available to you. So here's our inch and our metric, and here's the default from SolidWorks. Okay, so this one is supposed to be done in the inch. So if we open this part, this will bring in, you can see down here, inch pound seconds, IPS, inch pound seconds. So we know that everything is being drawn in the inch pound seconds. Okay, so it wants you to start on the top plane. So we're going to click the top plane, and then it says to go to the sketch, create a sketch, and while we're in a sketch, I will explain the colors of the lines. One thing I don't like about this book is it doesn't stress the importance of fully defined drawings, sketches. They're very important when you're trying to make modifications. If your sketches aren't defined in a way that you want them to react if you make changes, you'll have hours and hours of heartache of going back and remodeling. So I stress in this class very, very much that fully defined sketches are important. So what's a fully defined sketch? Well, I will show you what a fully defined sketch is. Okay, so we're going to build this cover plate. Now the first thing it says to do is to grab the circle icon. So up here this toolbar now became active because we have the sketch open. So this one here is a drop down for the sketch. This is for your dimensioning, your smart dimensioning, horizontal, vertical, ordinate dimensions, horizontal, ordinate, vertical, and path length dimensions. Okay, I always use a smart one unless I'm doing ordinates in my drawings. This is your lines that are available, either a construction line or a center point line, not a center line, which is basically a construction line, and a midpoint line. Several different rectangles. Either you can draw two corners, the center out to one corner, 3 points at an angle, center out, 3 points at an angle, or parallelograms. Again, you just have to get in and play with these to see which one you like best or what you're doing. This is slots, various different types of slots, circles, radiuses. This one is polygons. You can specify how many sides you want in your polygon. This is a spline. You just draw. It's basically a freestyle with the mouse. And then ellipses. This is for chamfers and corner radiuses. And if you want to do text, now you say, what am I going to use? I use this a lot when I'm labeling stuff in my models at my office, so that I can keep track of. I deal with magnets, so I know which side is north and south. I'll do an N and S. Circuit boards, I'll make a feature on the circuit board that tells me which circuit board is which. I use that a lot. Points. This one you're going to get very familiar with. This is the trim. I'm going to drop this down so we can see the top of those. This is trim. When you have excess lines in your sketches, you'll use these to trim back. You have extended trim and trim entities. I like this one. Okay, the book tells us to use this one, so I'll do both, I think. This one is convert entities. That means if you have a surface and you click that, it'll make all the edges of the surface sketch lines. This one is an offset. If you have a sketch, it'll offset a specific amount, however much you want. This is mirror, pattern. This shows you all the relations that are in a sketch. Repair sketch, hey, cool. I've never used that one. And then rapid sketch and instant 2D. We don't use those in this class. And then again, this all the other toolbars that we had open. So, okay, we're going to start here with our sketch, and we're going to grab a circle, and I'm going to have it lock right to the. You notice it. Draw that right into there and pop up that red circle. That means that it is snapped to the center point of the origin. So I'm going to click on that and drag it out. Okay, now does that look like 10 inches to you? It looks like 10 inches to me, because it doesn't matter what size you bring it to. As soon as you put a dimension, okay, I came up here and hit the dimension, which defaults to the smart dimension. And as soon as I put a dimension on there, okay, it says it's 6.25 469763, but I overwrite it to say 10. Oh, you gotta have the num locks off, stupid. There we go. I overwrite it to say 10, and poof, it's now a 10-inch circle. Okay, and that is the size of circle that we're supposed to have in there. And now it says to bring it to an isometric view. You get your isometric, trisometric, and dimetric, whichever one really makes you feel good, you go ahead and use. Okay, now that we've got our sketch, we're going to come over here to features and hit extrude, and we're going to come up a ½ an inch. So we'll click into this box down here and say 0.5 inches and hit the green check mark to say okay, that's done. I said okay. So now we have a disc that is 10 inches in diameter and a ½ inch thick. Okay, so that was the first step. So now we have a part, and now we've got a flat surface that we can use to draw on. Oh, and I didn't show the. Okay, we'll explain that in the next sketch, the different colors of lines, because I was busy doing other things. Anyway, so now we got to cut some little reliefs in it, and so it says to select this surface, and then go to sketch, collect the sketch, and I'm going to hit this button, which brings this surface coplanar to the screen so that I'm looking flat down on it. and then it says to draw two circles, one small one and one bigger one, but not quite all the way to the end. Okay, again, I let that snap to the center point, and well, what happens if you don't do that? I will tell you what happens if you don't do that. Okay, I'm just going to delete this line here. Let's say for some reason that didn't snap to the center point and I came clear out here. Well, that's not where I want it. Do I have to delete and start over? No, you just grab the center point of that circle and you can move it wherever you want and bring it over, and when it snaps to the center, let go. Okay, so now you see these lines are blue. Blue means that they are they're undefined. That means that if you grab a hold of that, you can move it. Okay, that means it is undefined. So it's just basically undefined. Um, okay. Oh man, there's so much to teach, and I just don't know how. Okay, so now we're going to dimension that to make it solid. Okay, so we'll come over here and click on the smart dimension tool, and we'll click on this line, and it comes out here, and that line is supposed to be 8.5 inches, so we will just type in 8.5 inches. Now you notice it's gone from blue to black. Black is a beautiful color. Okay, that means everything is fully defined. It's happy. It's where it wants to be. Okay, any other color than black is other than gray is not a good color. So now we want to bring this guy here. We'll hit a dimension on him, bring it out, and he's supposed to be 3.5 inches. Okay, so it's black now too. Okay, so now I'm just going to hit the escape to get out of the dimension tool. Now it says to bring two lines out, make one horizontal. Again, I'm going to let that snap to the center point, and you'll notice here at one point, boom, if you see me pointing at it with my other hand, just down there by my cursor there's two yellow boxes. One has a line with looks like a I don't know, a crooked T, and the other is a horizontal line. The first one with a dot and the two lines means that it's coincident with a hole or with a point, and the other line, the horizontal, means that it's a horizontal line. So when I let go, it looks blue, but when I come off of it and hit the escape, it's black. Okay, everything but the end point here, because it can still move, but it can't change angles because it has been set to be horizontal. Okay, and we need one more line coming out here, and this one is to be 20 to 22 degrees. So now I'm going to show you something that the book doesn't show you. There are two other ways to get the dimension tool. Okay, the first one is if you hit the S key. S is in Sam. S, that opens up this palette, and here you can get your lines. Pretty much that whole toolbar that's up there is now available to you right here. So we're going to hit the smart dimension and come over here and grab those two lines, and oh, look at that, I was less than half a degree off. That's supposed to be 22.5 degrees. Okay, so now everybody's happy, everybody's black, but these lines are too long. You can't have lines that are over out here into nothingness. SolidWorks doesn't like that. It likes to know exactly where it's going. So now we need to trim. So you come up here to this guy here and you do the trim entities. Okay, now over here is the options under trim. The power trim is a powerful tool, but you can do whichever you want. Trim to corners, trim to closest, but with the trim to power, or the power trim, you just come out here, you hit the left mouse button down and go across the lines you don't want, and then let the mouse button off. Okay, well, we don't want this circle, and it will trim between two sketch lines. Okay, well, now look at that. Oh dang, we lost our blacks to blue. That's because when we trimmed this line, it lost its reference to the center point. So now see, it can move around, and that's not good. That's not what we want. So how do we get it back? I will show you how you get that back. If you grab this line and then hit the control button and select the origin, this little window pops up. And in here you can tell it to make it midpoint. Well, I don't want it midpoint because that would put the origin in the middle of this line. I just want to make it coincident. Then boom, it brought it down, made it coincident. Well, this line's doing the same thing. Okay, so we've got to do that one to coincident also. So we click both with the control button, hit make coincident, and now everybody is black. Okay, the other colors that you can get are yellow and red. They are not good colors at all. So if we were to, like, for some reason came down and threw another dimension on here, boom, there's our yellow ones. That means it's over defined. There's too many dimensions, too many relations. So you can either, a few things you can do, you can make it a driven, which means that this is, you can't change this dimension. It will be whatever it is based on the other dimensions in the sketch. Or you can just not put it in. Okay. So those over defining either come in red or yellow. So you don't want to see red or yellow. If you see a gray line, that just means that it's a line that's not in this sketch. It's in another sketch somewhere. Okay, so now we've got these 4 lines, and now we're going to do it the way the book says, and we are now going to come up here and pick the circular sketch pattern. Okay, and we're going to go from the center line of the part. We're gonna have how many parts? Oh, we got 8. So we're going to change this to 8. We want it to go 360 degrees equally spaced. And then we'll come down here to enter entities to pattern, and we want to pattern this line, this line, this line, and this line. Now that we've got these selected, we'll hit the OK button. And you notice everybody's black, everybody's happy. We've got our 8 lines. Okay, and then it says to come over to features and hit the extrude cut, and it brings up the extrude cut dialog box, and we want to go down 1/4 of an inch and hit OK. And so now we've got those holes in there. Okay, cool, huh? Okay, so now we've got to put the lift holes. Is that what they call those things? Yeah, lift holes. So we're going to click on that surface. Again, I like to work with things parallel to the screen, and then we're going to go to sketch, open the sketch, and this time we're going to use the dynamic mirror feature. Okay, what this does is it whatever you draw on one side of this line will be automatically mirrored to the other side of the line. So I've just drawn a mirror line, and it's black, meaning that it is fully defined, it is vertical and snapped to the origin. Now we will select this line and come up here to our tools, go down to sketch tools, and right over here is the dynamic mirror. We'll hit that. So now it is set up to do dynamic mirror. You can tell because of these parallel lines up here. So we're going to draw a circle, and you see that dotted line come up. That means that that is now horizontal with the origin, and we'll draw a circle. Boom, there's 2 circles. How cool is that? Say, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, now we're going to draw a line and snap to that line and snap to that line. Okay, and so now we see that we have our keyhole. So this, okay, I'm going to do it like the book says. So we're going to put in the dimensions. Now another way to get dimensions, I've showed you 2. One was to come up here and select it off the toolbar. Second was to hit the S and get that. A third way to do it is to hold the right mouse and slide your mouse upwards, and that'll bring you to the tool, the dimensioning tool. How cool is that? Say, yeah, that was far out. Okay, so we're going to grab the center line of that point and hit our mirror line, and that's supposed to be 0.75. The diameter is supposed to be 0.75. Okay, and then this line from here to the center origin was supposed to be 0.2, and then this line to the origin was supposed to be 0.2. Okay, so everybody's almost hunky and dory, okay, but we have blue lines. Why do we have blue lines? It's because even though I placed them at the center with the origin, they didn't snap to it as a relation. So what we're going to do is come in here and grab the origin, grab the center point with holding control, and this button or this palette pops up, and we're going to say that that is horizontal, and it just turned black. And we're going to grab our trim button, and we're going to trim that line and trim that line, and there is our shape. And we'll hit OK and go to our features. We're going to cut, and we're going to cut through all, and there is our pickup hole or our lift hole. Okay, and then there is one more feature to put in. Again, we'll click on this surface, bring it parallel to the screen, and again we'll go to the sketch, and we're going to draw circles. If we pop over here, you notice that that's popping right to that point on the circle at 90 degrees, and that little yellow line box that popped up at the end of our cursor tells us that it has snapped to that point. So we'll come and draw that circle. We'll hit escape, bring up our measuring tool, and set that at 0.75, and it didn't snap to it. Dang it. It snapped to the circle, but it didn't snap to the horizontal to the origin. So now it's black. We'll grab this guy, come again to our circular patterns. We want 4. It defaulted to that point. Everything looks hunky and dory. We'll hit OK. Okay, now this time they came in blue. Why did they come in blue? Because it's not fully defined. So we'll just grab this guy and make it coincident to that circle. Okay, well they're still blue. Well, that's because you need 3 points to fully define all your parts. So we'll bring this one in, and now they're all black. Okay, and then again we'll do a cut, extrude through all. Okay, so I didn't go through all, it only went through 1/4 inch. So if we double click on it, or actually if we right mouse click and come up here to edit feature, we'll go from blind to through all, and now it's through all. And so there is the part as done by the book. That's the way the book asked you to do it. Now I'm going to save this part. Where are you going to save it? I don't know. I'll find some place. Grading. Do I have SolidWorks? There we go. Okay, so this is what was this? It was a cover plate. And this is the book fashion. Okay, so now this is how I would, I guess I still need the dimensions. So I'll leave the book open. This is how I would model the part. Okay, again, I'd start with the same file. I'd come in here on my top view, and instead of starting with a sketch, I start right with the feature. Okay, and then it pops up everything. You notice that automatically brought that up parallel to the screen. I'll draw my circle, pull up my dimension tool. I want that to be 10 inches, and I would say OK. And I personally, just because of the way I do my assemblies, I like to do everything symmetric. So I will do this mid plane, which means that my 1/2 inch dimension I give it, 1/4 inches above the plane and 1/4 inches below the plane. So if we look at side view here and look at the top plane, we see that it's going right through the middle of my part. That's just the way I like to operate. Is it right or wrong? No, it's just that's the way I do it. Okay, so now we're going to put in those reliefs. So again, I'll come over here, select the extrude cut, and why it didn't pull that up is beyond me, but it should have. So we'll pull out my circles, and I got the 2 circles. So if you're using this feature of the right mouse and moving, you got to make sure you're not on a part. I do it out here. I'm going to pull up my measuring tool and come in here. This is 3.5. This here is 8.5. Obviously I didn't hit the center point with that circle because it's blue. That's one good feature about fully defined functions, or sorry, I'm bringing MATLAB into SolidWorks. Fully defined sketches is if it's blue, you know there's a problem. So I'm going to bring, instead of going to the center, I'm going to bring that to this point and bring it out, and there's no sense in drawing extra. Have it, well, look at that, see that defaulted to a tangent. I don't want tangent, so we'll start over, delete it, and connect to that and to that, and then we'll do our trim. Okay, so see now, only thing I have here is problem. Well, okay, so he's still not coincident, so we'll grab those 2 with a control button, and make this 22.5 degrees. Okay, so that was pretty much almost the same as the book, but not quite. But now I would pre-select all of these lines with my control button before going to my pattern, and I want a circle pattern, and I want 8 of them, and poof, there's my circle patterns. And then now that I'm done, I just close the sketch, and it brings this up, and I want to go down 1/4 of an inch, and poof, there's my, okay. And now another thing that they did in the book that it could go either way, but I would do those last 2 features in one. And I'm not a big fan of the dynamic mirror, so but I do use mirror. I would draw my line here and draw my circle, and I make this line horizontal to that line, but I would grab these 2 after I'm done drawing and come up here and mirror them. The difference being, I don't know, I just feel like I have more control. I don't like having 2 line segments building to be one. And also another thing the book does that I'm not a big fan of is they use a lot of dimensions to define. Okay, so this could be defined a lot quicker, well, with 1 less dimension anyway. So the radius of that is going to be 375. It's a radius because I cut it before I dimensioned it, but we can change it over here. If we go to liters and change it from a radius to a diameter, it now says 750. The dimension from there to there is 0.750. Okay, and now you see, let's both of those lines together should be 0.4. Okay, oh, but that's not right, look at that, they're way off. Okay, yeah, but if we use a relation here, grab those 2 lines and tell it to be equal, that brings them down into the center. Then you're only having 1 dimension to change if you need to modify that in the future. With 2 dimensions, you got to make sure you change both of them, otherwise your slot will be offside or off center, and it could turn out to be a nightmare. Okay, so we've done that, and now as long as we're still in the drawing here, sketch, I'll come in and do this other one because there's no reason not to. They're both a through all cut. As long as you're going to the same depth with your features, you can do them all in the same sketch. So we're going to grab that guy, come up here, do a pattern around 4 times. Again, they came out blue, so we'll grab that center point and that edge, make them coincident, and do it to 2 of them so that it fully defines a circle. Close the sketch, brings up the dialog box. We want to go through all, poof, and there is the part done. That's how I would do it. Now, obviously, it took longer in the book because I took time to discuss how I was doing it. But overall, I still prefer some of the things that I do over the book. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this video. There will be more coming as I make them. Thanks.